Well, Daniel, it's very good to be talking with you about your past. With a name like Daniel Gandolfo, we realise that you are half Italian. How did your Italian background influence your childhood and growing up?
My father was Italian from the north of Italy, near Pisa, and my mother was English, north of England. During my childhood, I was brought up in the Roman Catholic Church, went to church every Sunday, and my family was very loving, but quite strict. In the Catholic Church, I heard the stories of Jesus, but never really heard the gospel, and it never really sunk in. And
so you heard stories about Jesus?
Yeah, I heard the parables.
Rather than what his real message is. Yeah.
Yeah, the Catholic Church taught me to pray. I prayed to God when I was a teenager, but I never really heard the gospel. So therefore, I never really gave my life to Jesus at all. But when I became a teenager, I started to do some searching because I started to see what the world was really like. And I became very confused because I saw in the world many different things going on. And not only in the world, but amongst my friends as well, amongst my peer group, there was a lot of things going on. And I realized that the world put pressure on you to be a certain person, to go a certain way. And there was a pressure to be strong and successful. There was a pressure to be kind and understanding. There was the pressure to be seen as cool and popular amongst my peer group. And another thing was, how do I deal with my own sin and guilt and shame? How do I deal with that? I could go to confession, but I didn't go to confession in the Catholic Church. I stopped going, And in the Catholic Church, you go to confession, but you do the same sin again the next week. It never really changed you, right? And this was all going on in my mind at the time, and I became very confused as a teenager. How do I have an overall story that dictates my life? I didn't have one, and it was common for the postmodern era that many people didn't have a story that they could live up to. And it was only when I went to university that when I really started questioning and meeting different types of people that could answer my questions.
So you went to university
I went to Liverpool University up in Liverpool, and I studied natural science, physics, and during that time, I was learning science. I was searching for things behind science. Where does science come from? What's the reason for it? And also at the same time, there were Christians on my corridor that invited me to the Christian Union. But I went along to the Christian Union, and there was one preacher who really talked to me, an African man, Femioni. If I could meet him now, I'd say thank you to him. And he preached. I met one-to-one with him and studied the Bible. And I'm thinking after about a month, I gave my life to the Lord. I realized that when you give your life to the Lord, your allegiance becomes allegiance to Jesus and to what he says and what he does, and the idea is that you follow him.
And what happened to all that teenage confusion and trying to make sense of life in that moment?
All of that just fell away. All of that confusion fell away because Jesus commands. Jesus says that he is the way, the truth, and the life. And it's a simple thing, but it is. It's a simple thing. Yeah, very, very, very profound at the same time.
And so you would explain the world in what way?
My explanation is that God created it, and that there is sin in the world, and Jesus is the answer to that sin. When God looks at our sin, he doesn't see it as he sees Jesus instead, as the perfect man who sacrificed himself for us. So he doesn't see our sin, he sees Jesus as the perfect man and says, you are forgiven.
So when, as a child and as a young teenager, you were going to church, and as a young child going to confession perhaps, and doing things to atone for your sin, you were always trying to say, I'll be good enough.
It was always what I did. It was always me trying to be better, and I knew that I couldn't. because I didn't. I couldn't be better somehow. I kept making the same mistakes, doing the same things, same habits. They didn't change, you know. Whereas with Christ, there is a definite power there that changes you. It's not you. It's an awareness of something greater than you that's helping you.
So you're studying physics at university, and suddenly this great big change has come about in your mindset and your whole view of the world. How does that change the way that you study physics?
So if you look at the universe as an atheist, it can be quite bleak, because ultimately scientists think it will explode or whatever. With Christianity, there's a greater story going on. There's a greater story of renewal, which gives more hope. There's more hope in Christianity than there is in atheism, I think.
And so what would you say to somebody living in Didcot who maybe works at Harwell or Cullum, or works in one of the labs in Didcot, and to them the very idea of even thinking about God is sort of off their radar, isn't it? And it seems, where should they start just to test whether there's anything in what you're saying?
As scientists, we're called to look at the evidence, and the evidence of Christianity is manifold, I think, but the starting point is probably the four Gospels: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, who are their accounts, eyewitness accounts of what Jesus did and said. And in Christianity, you have to account for how it started. How do you account for the evidence of Christianity exploding in a Roman, Greco-Jewish culture that was completely against any of that going on? And how do you account for the fact that Jesus said things like "love your neighbor as yourself"? You know, that had never been heard before. So by any philosopher. So how do you account for that?
And Christianity is not founded on myth. It's not founded on things that might be true, possibly, but it doesn't matter whether they are. It is founded on historical facts that are crucially important. And if those facts are not true, we have no faith. We have no foundation. Yeah. Okay, Daniel, thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.